Welcome to the Octavius Gould Experience, and I'm your host, Octavius Gould. Today, I have the pleasure of having someone who I respect tremendously, Desmond Andrade. And Desmond and I have been following one another on social media for about 2 years now. To give you some background into this impressive gentleman, he actually graduated from Barton College, then went on to North Carolina Central University School of Law, started as an assistant state attorney in the 2010-2011 time frame, if I remember correctly. But he is now the owner of 26 Injury Law in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Desmond, welcome to my episode. I'm excited to have you, my brother.
Thank you so much for having me. The pronunciation of the name was beautiful. Thank you so much again for having me. I've been a big fan of yours for quite some time now, both your podcast and just the messaging that you put out there for the universe to be consumed. So definitely grateful to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you as well. And being that I have a name that's butchered frequently, I just wanted to make sure I showed you that due respect and got it right.
I appreciate it. Thank you again.
So for my listeners, I gave some insight into your background. You started your career as an assistant attorney and then worked for some law firms before starting your own law practice. And this isn't necessarily the first one because we'll get into how you got to Fayetteville as well as founding 26 Injury Law. I want to go back because I saw a video and I think you were in a frat, right?
Oh, what did you see? No, I'm actually not Greek. I have a lot of friends that are Greek, but I'm not sure what video. I hope I'm not getting too red, but I'm not Greek, but I'm interested to know what video.
I think it was a video you were visiting some college buddies, and you posted something on social media, and you all were just hanging out. They may have been Greek.
Yeah, a bunch of buddies are. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not Greek as well. Playing football. Unfortunately, when I was at the University of Florida, the football team and some of the fraternities didn't get along, although a lot of them eventually became or got involved in different fraternities as well. And I couldn't dance. So, I'm not a great dancer. Yeah. So any steps like that, I would have butchered.
I'm with you there. That's kind of what kind of kept me away because they don't need me stepping on any one of their stages.
And before we get into business, you are a father, and that's a role that you take very seriously. And one of the things that really impressed me about you, because you see so many gentlemen on social media and you see their professional side, and sometimes we're careful and apprehensive to put our family out there because of people duplicating our pages and things of that nature. But one of the things that I really loved getting to know you over the past 2 years is how much you love and appreciate and adore your family. And if I'm correct, you have a beautiful wife, 2 sons, and a daughter, right?
Three sons and a baby girl.
Okay.
Yeah. So y'all look similar, so.
So the first question I have for you, Desmond, as a father and a business professional, how do you balance the two to make sure that you're giving attention to both?
Sure. Well, that's something that I think we all contemplate in the business world that do have families. And I heard something, I'm not sure where. I listen to so much great content nowadays, it's right at our fingertips. But I like the concept of kind of dispelling the whole balance terminology and just be present where you are, right? Because at certain times, it can be by the day, it can be by the week. You're going to have to put more time into one or the other. Like you have graduations or the end of school or holiday festivities where you have a bunch of shows you have to go to for the kids. So you're probably going to have to put the business, well, at least I choose to. I'm going to need my team to kind of back me up with the business and put more time into what my kids have going on. And there are going to be times where I have trial or we're introducing something new into the firm where I'm going to have to kind of miss out on some things with the kids. So to me, it's just making sure whenever I'm doing one or the other, I put the focus on that thing. And it's one of the things I've been working on. And I think I have at pretty good balance right now. But every now and then, there's going to be a give and take. But I just try to make sure when I'm with the kids, I'm locked in. And when I'm at work, I try my best to focus on being at work, which is probably my biggest business challenge, is not wanting to bail out of here early to go to be with my wife or my kids.
I can appreciate that because when I was a younger entrepreneur, it was difficult for me to find that balance.
Yeah, yeah.
Quite frequently, I said, give me 5 more minutes on the laptop. It turned to 30. Give me 30 more minutes. It turned into an hour. And it took me a while to develop that ability to balance the two well, but more importantly, understand who truly needed to be the priority. Because I felt, being a younger business professional, Desmond, that providing financially was the most important thing. And then my two daughters started to get older, and I realized that, as you stated, being present is more important than anything.
Yeah.
How do you, as an attorney, the father of 4 kids, and a great husband, balance all three: the business, the kids, and your spouse?
Well, I have to first give kudos to my amazing team. It really starts with having good people around you that can make sure that the things that your business is trying to accomplish are able to move forward in the proper direction without you necessarily having your hand on every single button. So I'm thankfully at a place, and again, going back to what we mentioned about at different times, you're going to have to give more to one or more to the other. But thankfully, I'm in a place now where I have a really good team. So I know if I'm going to have to be away for half a day or even a couple of days in a row, I can give my team that advance notice, and then they're more than equipped to make sure everything keeps rolling, or even leveling up while I'm not there. So at this particular stage, that would be my answer. I have a great team around me that we have great systems, procedures, policies, and we have a really good flow. So I feel really confident anytime I need to step away from the business that everything is going to continue to move forward at the pace that it needs to. So that helps me a lot when it comes to my personal life at this juncture. And that wasn't always the case. There were times where, I had to take the trash out, write the checks, pay the bills, and do everything under the sun with the business. And that presented its own unique kind of challenges. But each phase of your business walk, I think it kind of changes based upon where you are. But that's where I am now, thankfully.
Yeah, great place to be in, because one of the skill sets that many leaders must develop, regardless of what type of business you're in, whether you're an attorney, a CEO, or a sales professional, you must hire great people and have that ability to look at folks and understand what they can bring to the table that will do and can do. Will they do it? Can they do it? And then get out of their way when you hire the right person, right?
I like that. I like that. Yeah, that's pivotal. That's important. It's very important for the growth of the firm. But also I definitely put a high value on peace, on my sanity, and having good people around you working with you. I know, not to say for you, but with you, because the bottom line is nothing in my office gets accomplished without my team being lockstep and key with me.
And I'm going to touch on the team aspect of things. I want to start with taking you back a few years. I think you're a lot younger than me, from what I gather. So it's going to take you back a few years. When you were in college, what led you, or even in high school, to think about becoming an attorney? And if there was something else that you wanted to be initially, talk to me about that as well.
Yeah, well, I think my interest in becoming an attorney peaked in the 10th grade, my sophomore year in high school. I was in a criminal justice course, and I just found the instructor, who was a former homicide investigator for the Fayetteville Police Department. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina. And he was just always giving us very exciting and interesting stories. And again, he was a homicide investigator. So I just kind of latched on to the whole criminal justice realm in its entirety. But what he started doing at that time, there was a show called The Practice. I'm not sure if you ever watched it back in the day that was out.
Oh, yeah.
every week he would bring out the little TV on the wheels with the VCR, and he would play the episode of the practice. And that was my very first introduction to the legal field. Don't have any family members who were attorneys, had never even spoken to an attorney at that time, but that really piqued my interest and made me curious about what it meant to be an attorney. I was the youngest of male cousins growing up, and we always hung out, sleepovers, and the only thing I had at my disposal was the power of gab, right? Jokes, and try to cut them with my words, and be witty and things of that nature. So I think I developed a skill set, and just seeing them arguing with compassion, and of course it was a show, so it spiced it up a lot. But yeah, that's definitely what introduced me to the field of law, and I definitely attribute that to at least whetting my palate and kind of made me explore further.
So you take that step, you get into college, you graduate from Barton College, and
Yes,
now
sir.
you're looking at law school. Were there any challenges that you had to overcome? Because out there in the real world, I hear about people who have to take the exam multiple times or what have you. Anything that you went through as a young man going through college that may have rerouted you or deterred you away from it that you had to refocus on and pivot?
I wish I had a juicy one. I really don't. You know what? I had an enlightening moment when I went to college, when I went to undergrad. I was always a good kid, very good parents, always yes ma'am, no ma'am. Always did well in school. Always had about a one or two C's, report cards. Every now and then I pull up AB honor roll, but I just never really felt that academia was my strong point. Scholarship athlete. I went to Barton College on a soccer scholarship. So I mean, I wasn't a bad student. I never got a D in my life, never failed a class. But I was just always kind of like that borderline student, right? But in undergrad, one of the requirements to be on the soccer team was we had to go to what's it called? Mr. D1 athlete, study. What do you call it?
Study hall.
Study hall.
Study
You had to
hall.
go to study hall.
Oh yeah.
And this was the first time in my life that I sat down for an hour straight and studied. And my very first semester at undergrad, I made the dean's list. And I'm like, whoa, you mean to tell me if I sit down and focus and study for an hour a day, I can get these kind of grades? So that really put me on a trajectory to realize that, no, I am smart. I am pretty intelligent. I never thought that I wasn't smart, but like I can do this on an academic level. So I would say my struggles in academia at least came before I started undergrad, because I didn't just really have that confidence that I could be a top-notch student. But that showed me kind of some of my capabilities, oddly enough, not in athletics, but in academia. And then from there, I really just continued to build upon that. My senior year in undergrad, me and two other buddies, we said, man, let's take the LSAT. Now, even at that time, I had that appetite since high school, but I still hadn't really explored to the extent that I should have.
Right.
But my senior year in undergrad, we all sit down, all three of us, and we take the LSAT. I'm like, whoa, I just took a step. I just took that step, got my score back, and started to apply to a bunch of different places, and got accepted into law school. A few others, but chose to go to North Carolina Central. Fast forwarding to kind of get to your question about the other side of law school. Thankfully, I passed the bar in Florida. I moved from North Carolina to South Florida, and I passed the bar the very first time. The most difficult summer of my life. I have some pictures of that summer. My work study, it's not my work, excuse me, my loan, my bar study loan came about 2 weeks after I took the bar. So I mean, cheeseburgers from Wendy's and late nights at Nova Southeastern University Library was the story of that summer. I literally came back to North Carolina about 160. I have pictures. It looks very bad. I didn't realize it looked that bad until after I got home and saw the pictures. Very difficult summer, but we passed that bar on the first time. That was challenging. But I mean, I can't say there was anything that was necessarily a stumbling block. There were things that required me to do the work. And, I found that if I did the work, I got the results, and that has remained true to this point.
It's interesting, Desmond. One of the things that you mentioned was that study hall thing. And I think a lot of folks out there, they think of college athletes, especially now with NIL, they think we're privileged and we just go, we do our sport, we don't have to do the work. But like you, I found that being forced to go to study hall conditioned me to be a little bit more dedicated than I was even in high school. But more importantly, it taught me how to study, how to take exams. Because in high school, I did great in my schoolwork, but for someone who was a nervous exam taker,
Okay.
I could have excelled even more if I had known how to go about the practice of studying. But that leads me to this question. You were a soccer athlete on scholarship. What did you learn or take away from soccer or being an athlete in that sport that even helps you today as a business professional and attorney?
Soccer and sports were everything. I think I give a huge amount of credit to what that sport did for the man that I am right now, the professional that I am, the father that I am. It just taught me discipline. It taught me the value of hard work. My father was in the military, Army. He was all Army soccer team, all armed forces soccer team. He's a soccer fanatic to this day. With a fused ankle, he still tries to play soccer. So he used to wake my brother and I up to do PT with him in the mornings. We would, train in soccer. So I mean, just that discipline, that hard work, doing things when you didn't want to do them, when you didn't feel like doing them. Those are all things that were ingrained in my brother and I at a very young age. And I think if you do not get that, it's so easy to stop or to quit or to change paths when you come up against any degree of adversity. So soccer, man, I learned a lot through soccer, and to this day, either through my boys or either kids that I mentor, I teach a lot through the sport of soccer. It was a game changer. In my college career, I started the very first game that I was there, and I never missed a game. And I say that not to brag about my skills. I say that to brag about the discipline that I showed and that I had, because as you know, there are kids who you played with or played against that were much more talented, but they were focused on girls. They get started messing with drugs. They weren't going to class. I mean, there are a ton of things that can prevent you from showing up and being your best self on the athletic pitch, aside from just your skill set. So when I bring that up to young folks, it's not to say, I mean, I didn't play for UNC Chapel Hill or, the top club or the top school or university, but I take pride in that because it means to me that my coach, one, saw that I did have a skill level that I can play from day one, but also I did the things, took care of my body, went to class, didn't get caught up in any nonsense. I stayed healthy. So to me, all those things are things that I really hold in very high regard. And they were taught to me from my father at a very young age, and just playing the sport of soccer at a very high level, and just knowing what it means to compete, knowing what it means to lose, and knowing what it means to win.
Yeah. And as it relates to soccer, I had an opportunity to consult for a company called T4 Soccer. They did performance testing in the soccer arena, testing the speed, agility, and endurance of soccer players. Now, I wasn't surprised, but some of my counterparts was as it relates to how much endurance is required for soccer. I had a neighbor who was great in New Jersey at playing soccer as a youth. I went out, practiced with him one day, and realized that football was my sport because we get the timeouts in between the plays. We get to sit on the sideline when the defense is out there. I played on offense. I could not deal with the endurance requirement of soccer, and that was as a youth.
Yeah, well, I couldn't deal with a linebacker hitting me, so I don't want to. I listen. I would take being a soccer player and running through the air than having the ball in my hand and having the task of running through a linebacker, especially during the time when you played, when linebackers were linebackers. With all due respect to the current generation.
Well, unlike you, injuries got the best of me, so my endurance wasn't as great. So you go from being an assistant state attorney to initially working within other law firms, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep. So
what was that experience like? And then walk me through, Desmond, what led you to starting your own firm and diving in with the Sharks?
Sure. Well, so I first started as an assistant state attorney. A transformative experience with me during law school was interning with the great Willie Gary. I interned with him my second year of law school. He is the preeminent litigator, obviously one of the preeminent African American litigators in the history of law. So having that summer and seeing what it took to be a Willie Gary, the team that he put around him, the great minds that he put around him, it was an amazing and transformative experience. I say that to say, from that time, I knew I wanted to be a civil litigator. And a lot of my mentors advised me that the best place to get the experience you need to step in front of a judge, step in front of a jury, will come from being a assistant state attorney, which is what they call it in Florida.
Okay.
Here in North Carolina, they call them district attorneys or public defender. So I worked as an assistant state attorney. But while I was there, I already knew I was going to be a civil litigator. Okay. So while I'm there and I'm doing my job, obviously, to my fullest capabilities, but I'm looking to take any trial that I can get. They would have something called GAC emails, guilty as charged emails. Okay. So whenever you go to trial, they would send a GAC email. Your colleagues just congratulating you and telling the rest of the team that you got a guilty as charged, right? Okay. So in one GAC email, they misspelled my name. My name is spelled DESMON. They left the S out. It was demon. So from that point on, they started calling me the trial demon because I would literally take any trial. If I had a colleague that didn't want to go to trial, everyone didn't like trial. Some people would get scared and clam up. I'll say, I'll take it. So I got 36 jury trials under my belt in a year and 10 months. I have colleagues who probably don't have one or two. I had 36 in a year and 10 months. That's jury trials, picking the jury all the way to jury selection. So I got that power course within a year and 10 months, and then I hopped out into the civil sector shortly thereafter. Honing my skills, working on the practice of law, the business of law, and kind of learning exactly what it took to not only be a successful litigator, because I got a pretty good portion of that when I was with the state. I was now learning the business of civil litigation. So I went from obviously an associate all the way up to a managing partner with one of my firms. And then I figured, hey, I've got what it takes. I know enough. Certainly had a lot to learn and still learning to this day, but I definitely felt that I was competent enough and had earned my stripes enough to go ahead and step out and kind of try to do things on my own. And I did, and definitely I do not regret it. It's been a great decision, and it's something that I really enjoy. Like you mentioned, the business. I enjoy the business of law. I like being an innovator. I like learning about, the new trend setting and the new just how business is moving, not just legal business, but business in general, how it's moving and how I can apply that to my practice. So definitely paid my dues on several different fronts. And I've been in practice for myself, initially with partners in 2016, and then I started my own in 2021. So I've been a partner, now a sole partner for quite some time now.
Awesome. And I'm familiar with Mr. Gary. I think he's practicing out of, is it Stuart or Stewart, Florida?
Yep, right? Yes, sir. Stuart, Florida.
Very, very impressive gentleman. What is the difference for my audience who may be comprised of people who are considering becoming an attorney or a paralegal or a legal secretary? What is the difference, Desmond, between an associate and a partner as it relates to their responsibility and maybe even the potential financial awards that come with that level of promotion?
Oh, definitely. So associate is mostly going to be one of your, younger, less tenured attorneys that are looking to get the experience, that are charged with kind of doing the day-to-day work and keep the cases kind of flowing. Maybe sit on some lower level depositions, help with discovery. But a partner, you have a ownership interest to a certain degree. You can be an equity partner, but there are varying degrees of partners, but you have more of an ownership interest in the firm. You are responsible and you're looked to bring in business. As an associate, you're not really looked to bring in business. They have you there to kind of keep the files moving. But when you step to the partner realm, you're now looked to be a rainmaker and help add to the value of the firm from that perspective. Additionally, at that point, you're supposed to be someone who's more experienced and obviously provide guidance and direction to the firm on that level as well. Associate, you're getting paid a salary. For the most part, when you're a partner, you're going to share in the profits and you're going to share in the losses as well. So the responsibility becomes much greater, and then of course the rewards are much greater as well. But yeah, so when you're an associate, you're working to ultimately reach the partnership track or start your own where you can be your own partner. But I think it's fair to say that an associate's goal is to ultimately become a partner or start their own firm and where they're the partner there.
Okay. And something you said, Desmond, is really interesting. It's like an executive business coach. People think because they've been a leader, they can just start their own practice and it's going to flourish day one. One of the things that you mentioned was that a partner is responsible for bringing in business for the firm. Touch on that and expand on that a little bit for my audience.
That is huge. That is everything. There are a lot of things that you can compensate for. You cannot compensate for that phone not ringing. I can ask a but, hey, have you seen this motion, or what would you do under this circumstance? But if that phone is not ringing and you're not getting clients into the door, how are you going to pay your bills? And I'm in the personal injury space to the benefit of your audience. So, I work off contingency fee. I mean, I don't get paid until I resolve a case or a claim for my client with the insurance company. So it's very important that we bring business in and we have a consistent stream and flow of business so that we're able to stabilize for all of the financial responsibilities that we have as a firm. One of the things that I think has helped me in my trajectory and obtain the level of success that I have thus far is my ability to bring in business. And that's just, I was listening to one of your podcasts a little while ago about networking and the power of networking. And networking, I'm trying to think if there's any one singular thing that's been more impactful to my business growth and development than networking. I do not think that there is. Maybe continue education in my field, of course, but I mean networking has been huge. I get a vast majority of my cases from former clients, colleagues, friends, people that I know and I have some type of contact with, I don't know if it'd be too surprisingly, but kind of like our connection through social media, right? People get a chance to see what you know. They kind of get a feel for the fabric of your character and your integrity. And I found that I've gotten a lot of a lot of business from networking and relationships that I've built. So bringing in business is huge, and networking is a huge relationship. And networking sounds a bit cold, but building relationships it's a non-negotiable when it comes to wanting to have a successful business, at least in the personal injury space.
I agree. And I love how you frame that. You go to a networking event with the purpose of initiating a relationship with someone that can be mutually rewarding. And then you got to use your business acumen and develop and nurture that relationship as well, correct?
You have to have the competency. You can have a nice conversation over dinner and make folks laugh all you want, but you're going to get a shot. Sooner they're going to say, hey, Des, you said you do this, right? Here you go. And if you drop that ball, or if you drop too many of those balls, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them professionally for sure. And you may even lose them personally, because when someone sends you business, they are they're putting their name on the line, right? So whenever I get a referral from someone, a colleague or a friend or someone that I've formed a relationship with through social media, I take that very seriously, because it's not only my job to do a great job for myself and my firm, but this person put their name on the line for me. So I have a responsibility to make sure that I hit a home run, because that ultimately benefits the person who referred them to me as well. So yeah, you have to be competent. You can get them, but you also have to be competent. And listen, you have some folks who can get them and they make sure their team is competent, and that's fine too. You may not know everything. You may not be the best attorney. You have some attorneys who just are good at getting them, but right. You have a good team. You have a team that's good at making sure that the cases do what they're supposed to do. So however you work it out, but no, you have to be able to get them. but you have to be confident and make sure you take care of them when they come, or else you'll find very soon that that word that your name is not going to hold weight, and the network that you build is going to be worth. It's going to have no foundation.
So I take it trust is critically important for an attorney to be successful, especially someone like yourself that started their own firm and achieved that level of success that they coveted.
Yeah, most definitely. Trust is huge in business. Trust is huge with clients. Trust is huge with colleagues. So that's something that you're nurturing on a daily basis. One of the main reasons and I need to work on my consistency, but one of the main reasons why I try to put out these videos touching on the legal field is just like you said, to kind of build that trust and that currency to say, hey, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about. And I don't like, flooding my entire page with law stuff because I'm more than just an attorney. And I think, people who do connect with me, they appreciate that. And that's something that's just organic to me. I've been on social media since it was Facebook back at Barton College. So it's not something I do necessarily for business, but it just so happens that it's a skill that ultimately ended up becoming very important in the business realm as well.
And a few times, Desmond, you mentioned your team. That leadership is pouring out. When you talk about your team and the importance of your team, talk to my audience about the different moving parts within a firm, your own firm. I know there's something such as a legal secretary, there's a paralegal. We talked about the associate. Talk about those parts and how they have to come together as one unified team.
Sure. So when I first started 2-6 Injury Law, I had and I'm big on policies and procedures. I came in with a policy that, like, literally, this is how you open our case management software. This is how you upload a file. Like, literally instructions on how you do every single thing. At this time, it was just me. So to bring in people and see those things come to life and be able to delegate those responsibilities and kind of see what this thing has morphed into has been amazing. So right now, I currently have a legal assistant and 2 paralegals. One of my paralegals is a JD. She graduated from North Carolina Central School of Law as well, and she's in the process of passing the bar and becoming an attorney. So hopefully I'll have an associate here soon. So my legal assistant, they are responsible with handling cases when they first come in, when they're still kind of in the negotiation stage with the insurance company. I have my paralegal who handles my litigation, meaning once a lawsuit has been filed. The one who I spoke about who graduated from Central, she handles the litigation aspect. And then I have my senior paralegal, office manager, and I call her the real boss, who who handles everything in between. She makes sure that we're always moving forward. Our procedures and policies are updated. We're finding new ways to make sure that we're being efficient, communicating with clients. So everyone has a role. And the thing I like about my firm and the way I tried to structure it is that when you come in, you know what you're supposed to be doing. And if you do that to maximum efficiency and competency, we're going to be good. So everyone knows when you come in, this is what you don't have to guess. What am I doing today? What am I going to be doing tomorrow? You didn't tell me this. Everything is laid out to where we all know what our roles and responsibilities are. And I like the saying that if it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job, right? So I make sure that this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And the team is going to succeed if you do what you're supposed to do. Things I have to do and everyone has to do, right? So I really like the fact that here at the firm, we're a small firm, but I'm really big on my staff growing. They've all kind of matriculated from the beginning of the process all the way up. And I'm really excited about each one of my staff actually have aspirations of, or at least they said they did, hopefully they still do, of going to law school and ultimately becoming attorneys. And I would like nothing more than them to become attorneys and end up being the partners at this firm, when I'm watching my kids play soccer over in Europe in 10 years, right? But I'm very big on making sure they know why they're doing what they're doing. And I tell them, from the very first interview, I always tell them, you're not working for me, you're working for yourself. I'm not one of these bosses that want to hold back information so you stay. I heard a great quote. It said, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it said something to the effect of, it's the worst thing to happen isn't that you tell someone too much and they leave. The worst thing is if you don't teach them enough and they stay. So I give them everything. Because if you choose to go seek another job, or if you get a new great offer, when you leave here, you should make sure your resume is stuffed. I know how to do everything. I want to teach you everything. And hopefully I'm treating you good enough. It's a good enough environment. I'm making sure I'm taking care of you financially. You feel there's room for growth if you stay with me for as long as you want to. And I want you to be here forever, right? But the bottom line is, if you find a better opportunity, if you decide to change career fields, if you decide to become an attorney, open your own firm, I'm going to applaud you. And I want you to have everything that you need to do that. Why would I withhold that information? So the thing that makes me the most proud is like my legal assistant. He came in straight out of undergrad at North Carolina A&T. He had never worked in the law office before. You should see him now. He's a star. He can go and work for any law firm and be an asset. And like, I take great pride in that. And that's not me, but I take pride in making sure my team knows that I want you to absorb all of it. I'm not hiding anything from you. I want you to know how it works from A to Z. And if you stay with me, and that's what I hope, I'm going to try to keep you here, that's great. But, if you happen to move on, I want you to be a powerhouse in your own right. So it's about building a team of leaders that hopefully they all stay and we grow this thing together. And I make sure it's something that they want to be here. But, I don't want anyone to be held back or suppressed in their knowledge and information or what they feel their role is. I want all of them to know that I want you all to be leaders. I want you all to be rock stars. And I want you all to have 2-6 law as an option and know you can leave if you want to because you have enough information. I don't want you to feel like you're stuck here because you haven't grown. I want you to grow, and then we all grow together. And everybody's eating good. Everybody's at the table.
Hey, folks, that's called leadership. There's so many definitions of leadership. You just outline what leadership is all about. And what's interesting and why I love how you frame that, there's so many leaders, they refrain from coaching and developing their people for many reasons. One, they say lack of time, but I think there are a lot of leaders out there that refrain from coaching and developing their staff and team members because they don't want to see them leave. They want to hold on to them. So they, keep them bogged down to a point where they're good enough to do the job there, but they're not great enough to move up the chain, whether it be within that organization or out of that organization. So I love, Desmond, how you talked about really being focused on enhancing everyone's competencies and skill set so that they can do a great job where they're at, but then potentially be able to aspire to become even greater elsewhere if it becomes that.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, you took the leap from a big firm to your own firm. What were some of the challenges that a person who's looking to become a solo practitioner would see that they would not experience if they were working with one of those big law firms or that are out there? And how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, well, the main thing 100% is going to be the back office, right? Especially in the personal injury space, the accounting aspect of it. We have to make sure that we deal for our trust accounts, that they're balanced appropriately. You have to manage the operations of the firm, the payroll. So the back office was the biggest learning curve that I had for sure, and without a question. And I don't necessarily like that part, to be honest with you. But I think it was good that I had to, because I just didn't have the resource at the time to hire a bunch of people and delegate those back office responsibilities at first. So I think it was good that I had to learn them and learn how to do them. But yeah, that's the biggest learning curve. If you are looking to start your own firm and you're leaving a law firm with a big HR and they got the pretty employee handbooks and
Copy center.
Copy center, make sure you have that stuff figured out before you take the leap, or at least as much as you can. Okay. You're looking to make a move, make sure you have the back office stuff figured out, because that's something that can prevent you from having the time and energy to go out there and bring in the cases and practice law because you're bogged down and confused or trying to figure out things with the back office. So yeah, figure out the back office. And there's as you know, you can YouTube, Google, Chat GPT. The information is out there. There's no excuse, and it's not anything that should be something that distracts you or prevents you from wanting to step out on your own. It's definitely doable. The information is out there. There are companies out there. But yeah, if you're going to leave a big law firm with that years and years of infrastructure in place, make sure that you at least know how to have a back office that's going to meet your needs. It doesn't have to be as grandiose as theirs, but at least those those required competencies that need to be addressed on the front end, so you're not having to figure it out down the road when things are out of hand.
What is the ideal time frame for someone to become an attorney or an associate once they start college? So they're a freshman in college. What is the ideal time frame for someone who may not know today, but could be considering that route as a career?
I don't think there is an ideal time frame necessarily. So me, I went straight through undergrad and all the way through law school and started working as an attorney. But I had a lot of friends and colleagues when I was in law school that were starting second careers. Some of them were retired military. Some of them were in other professions. And I think to a certain extent, they had a leg up, right? Because they had real life experience. My only job prior to becoming an assistant state attorney was a summer camp counselor on Fort Bragg in North Carolina. I would work there in high school, and then several years in undergrad, I would come back during the summers and work as a camp counselor. So I didn't have any real life work experience aside from that before becoming an attorney. And I don't necessarily say I was fine. I think the work ethic and the things that we spoke about before kind of supplemented, but I will say that I think there was some benefits to folks who were coming in after having another career in another sector. So and they to this day they're extremely successful. You wouldn't know that they hadn't been attorneys their entire professional career. So I don't think there's a cookie cutter answer to that. Yeah. I think because I hear a lot of people say, I wanted to be an attorney. It's not too late. You can really, law school is 3 years. And I think now they're having certain programs where you can finish quicker, and they have night programs where you can take, fewer classes, and I think it'll take 4 years, but you can still work and take night classes. So there's all types of combinations to get to that law degree. And then, once you get out of law school and pass the bar, then it just comes down to what you want, and you got that dog in you. So there's no one answer.
Okay, if there's someone out there who's considering becoming an attorney, or maybe is currently in a different career and they want to pivot and have that transition midlife, what are some of the attributes and skill sets you feel a person should possess to become a great attorney? Not just good, we're talking great, like you.
Sure. Well, first of all, let me say the legal profession is the best profession in the world by far. You will not find a more diverse profession. Most of our presidents have been attorneys. You can be, a lot of sports agents are attorneys, politicians, businessmen, businesswomen, obviously. So I think that you have contracts law, you have personal injury law, you have patent law, you have trademark law, you have so many, you have family law. You can pivot 1,000 times within the legal profession. And that's what I love about it. If I feel tired of this personal injury stuff, I'm going to go be a sports agent. I'm going to use it here. I'm going to go run for Congress, and my legal background is going to help me there. I just think it's such a diverse profession, and that's why I try my best to be present. I try to show my tattoos to kids who look like us. You don't have to be one thing to be successful and to be great in this profession. I'm sorry for deviating from your question.
No, you're fine.
I had to make sure that, to show that or express that I think that this is the best profession that there is out there. And we need more people, and specifically because there are only 5% Black attorneys currently. I think a little less than that now in the country. So we need to, I need our young Black and brown folks to know this is an amazing profession and that you can do it. Not only by learning how to be an attorney, by being yourself. I used to freestyle in the back of my car with my friends and my cousins. And guess what happens when I'm in court? I'm in the middle of an argument, arguing against the opposing counsel. You got to be sharp. So I'll have something that comes to my head just like that. And I attribute that 100% to rapping over a Jay-Z beat against my cousin, and we're battling, and I'm having to think of something quick. So God gives you what you need to be successful in your journey. So, but to answer your question, the things you need to be great, one, you have to be focused and dedicated, because it definitely is a lot of hard work to study, to learn things in the manner in which you need to be able to be successful in a law school exam, and of course, specifically the bar. And then whatever your specific field is, and again, I think that's kind of how I kind of got off on my tangent, is that it's so diverse, the different areas of law, where there's one set of skill sets that will help you in this area of law, and there's a separate set of skill sets that will help you in this area of law. Like for personal injury, we're really based on being able to bring in business and get clients through the door, as to where a person who works in-house for Nike,
Right.
They don't have to worry about getting clients. They have to look at contracts and mergers and acquisitions. So there are different skill sets that are needed. So that's why I think that this profession is so great, because whatever your talent is, if you're introverted and you don't like getting clients, that's fine. There's a space for you and your personality type as well. But it's just about being dedicated, being disciplined, and being a go-getter. And you can do it. This profession is it's not rocket science. I think sometimes we look at attorneys and think they must be so brilliant. I won't disparage any of my colleagues, but there are a lot of people in this profession who, sometimes I ask myself how. But no, I mean, whatever you have, I guess if I could answer your question shortly, you said, Desmond, shut up and answer my question. It would be, what you need is what you have, and just focus that towards what you want to do. What you need is what you have. Focus in on that and use it to get to where you want to be. Point blank, period.
Desmond, I'm with you. You answered it beautifully. Now I want to pivot, as we wrap up the show shortly, to helping people who need the services and help of an attorney. We talked about someone who's aspiring potentially to become an attorney, but one of the things that I picked up on is you give great information, you have great content to help people who are outside of that space who may need your services to, one, avoid mistakes, and then two, get to the right or appropriate person who can potentially help them. So let's start with, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making out there before they get to you that they should be aware of and avoid?
Yeah, so in the personal injury space, the number one thing is speaking to the other driver's insurance company before they speak to an attorney, because the adjuster for the person who hit you, their job is to try to find any way for them not to have to pay you. Point blank, that's just their job. And, sometimes, I hear plaintiffs attorneys try to vilify adjusters. That's just their job. That's what they do. If I was an adjuster, I would probably be trying to do the same thing, right? So the number one thing is speaking to an adjuster before you speak to an attorney, because they are very good at making you feel comfortable, like they're going to take care of you, but they're trying to extract information to say, hey, we can get out of paying this claim because of this or because of that or because of this technicality. So speaking to adjusters is number one. But the lack of information, right? Without information, people shall perish. Before you even get to that point, so many people have insurance policies, auto insurance policies, that don't have what's called underinsured and uninsured motorist coverage. There are so many folks out here who are driving without insurance. And if someone hits you, they could be recorded running through a red light, T-boning you and breaking both of your legs and your arms, right? I don't care if they are as guilty as sin. We have it recorded. They admit to it even.
Okay.
If they don't have insurance and they're not individually collectible, I can't do nothing with that. We can say shame on you for causing that accident, but there's no purse there to pay for your damages.
Okay.
So the only way to make sure that we're going to be protected, regardless if the person doesn't have insurance or not, which again, a lot of folks are driving on these roads without a license, forget insurance. They don't even have licenses, but without license, without insurance. So the only way to make sure that yourself and your family or anyone in your car is protected is by having uninsured motorist coverage. I think I have like maybe $300,000 on my policy. Okay. So if someone hits me or my family and they don't have insurance, it's like my policy blankets them as if they did. So I'm protected regardless of what someone may or may not have. And there's nothing that saddens me more than to have to tell a person who's been seriously injured that I cannot help you because you didn't have uninsured motorist coverage. And unfortunately, this person didn't have any insurance and they don't have any assets to collect upon. So you're right. You didn't cause the accident. They were wrong, but there's nothing that we can do about it. So one, not speaking to adjusters because they're looking to find fault or any reason not to take care of you. Okay. And second, make sure you cover yourself. Do not depend on those drivers on the road to have the proper coverages and policies in place when you can do it on yourself and be proactive. So I always try to stress that. family reunions and conversations. Do you have uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage? Because that is the only way to drive around these roads with a peace of mind to know that you're protected.
Now, someone's looking for an attorney. What are some of the steps you recommend that we should take when we're in need of that help? Because normally you'll Google, but people don't realize that that attorney that they're pulling up may specialize in a different area. So what are some of the steps you would recommend that people take when they're in need of an attorney like yourself?
No, so to your point, I would make sure by doing my research, whether it be Google or looking at their website and making sure that what I'm looking for, what my legal need is something that they have experience in and that they specialize in. My firm, we only do injury cases.
Okay.
And people have different practice models, but I just find it very difficult to do injury cases, family law, wills and estates. Like, bring me everything. Anything you probably got, just bring it on into me. It's difficult because there are different laws, there are different cases, there are different timelines, there are different documents. It's every practice area has its own specific requirements and nuances, and it's very difficult for one practitioner. Now, if you have a big firm where this wing does this, that's a bit different. But sometimes you find these attorneys where whatever you have, give it to me, and you often find those types of attorneys. They drop the ball, and it's really easy to do. It's easy enough to drop the ball just focusing on one. So right. You can imagine. So I said to say, make sure that whatever your need is, you're dealing with or reaching out to an attorney who has a focus or at least a wing of their practice that is focused on that area, and ask those questions. How long have you been doing this practice area? What's your experience? Have you been to trial? Have you filed a lawsuit? Ask about their experience within that specific field. And another thing, just like any other practice, attorneys make mistakes. And just like I was telling you about drivers without insurance,
right?
Guess what happens if an attorney who makes a mistake on your case and prevents you from being able to seek justice, if they don't have any assets to collect upon, because every law firm don't have assets, make sure they have insurance. I have liability insurance. We're practitioners. We're right. Professional industry. There's liability insurance. If I do something that messes up a person's case, guess what? I have money there to make sure that they're going to be taken care of. So that's an important thing I try to tell clients as well. Ask your attorney, do you have liability insurance? Because attorneys don't mess up cases on purpose. Doctors don't injure people on purpose. Whatever professional accountants don't mess up folks on purpose. But sometimes stuff happens. And you don't want a practitioner to be able to just say, my bad, I'm sorry. No, right. Mrs. Johnson, my firm, we made this error. We missed this deadline, but have no fear. Here's the claim information. We have up to X amount of dollars in coverage. So those are things that, you need to think about on the front end. Right. Do they focus on that area? And what's going to happen if they drop the ball? Do they have liability insurance? And that's something that attorneys don't like talking about, but that's something that's important.
Because if there's a deadline, they can't use the postal service. They need to get that FedEx out that evening to meet that deadline for the court.
Oh yeah, it's stressful. If you don't have your policies and procedures in place, then you better have a good policy. Yes, sir.
Before we wrap up, another question I have for you. Are you able to work in multiple states if you're an attorney? And this is before I get into your specific firm, 26 Injury Law. Are attorneys able to do work anywhere they want to?
It depends. So like immigration attorneys, for example, they can practice countrywide, state to state. Okay. But personal injury attorneys, for example, no, you have to be licensed in the respective state. I'm barred in Florida and I'm barred in North Carolina. So I can't step foot in the court in a different state unless there are exceptions where you can be kind of brought in and you can join on with an attorney from that state. They call it pro hoc. But for the most part, you have to be licensed in the state in which you're practicing in. And they're like patent law. There are a few types of law where the jurisdiction is countrywide, but for the most part, you have to be licensed in the respective state in which you're looking.
Okay. Now, anyone who's been watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, has already ascertained why you are as great as you are, because you're sharp. They can just listen to you and know that, one, you're on top of your business. You care about your people. You're a leader. As it relates to 26 injury law, talk to me about why, if someone's looking for an attorney in your space, they should come to you.
Oh, that's easy. You're not going to find a law firm that focuses more on making sure the client is informed and educated and communicated with throughout the process of their claim. When it comes to a personal injury case, there's only a small degree of variance, right? You get in an accident, we have to prove that you weren't the one that was responsible. That's one. We have to also make sure that there's coverage. There's something there to pay for the injuries and the damages that you sustained. And then lastly, the damages. How bad were you injured? And that can be argued to a certain degree as well. But for the most part, excuse me, the facts are going to be what they are. Your injuries are going to be what they are. It's going to be supported by medical records or medical bills. The question is, what is your experience like? Are you going to have an attorney that you can communicate with? Are you going to have officers that keep you informed? Are you going to be chasing them down for information? This is what we do. We do oftentimes one of our sayings is injury law is what we do. There's nothing you can speak to me about in the injury law space that I don't know or I can't get you the answer to in a short period of time. So one, we're extremely competent. We do a great job and we focus on this particular practice area. Our case management software is designed for injury clients. It's specific. It's tailored to that. We have, steps from A to Z on how to make sure your case runs smoothly. And most importantly, how do we keep you informed and empowered through the process? So that's something I think that's unique to us. That's one of the things that we get good reviews and we continue to get clients from old clients. And to me, that's one of the highest testaments when an old client sends you a new client.
Two more questions before we wrap up. What would you tell your 20-year-old self today? What advice would you give yourself at age 20 if you had the opportunity?
Trust yourself. Trust yourself. When you're in one spot, and I think I'll be 40 in November. But to me, when I look back, it's so difficult to see yourself in the place. It's difficult to see yourself when you don't have a wife as a good husband. It's so difficult when you don't have children to see yourself as a good father. It's difficult when you're in undergrad to see yourself as an attorney, right? But trust yourself. It's gonna happen if you take the proper steps. Like if you go to the gym and you don't eat, junk food and you work out X amount of times a week, you're gonna get abs and your muscles are gonna get bigger. It's that's why I like working out so much, because it's one of the few things where if you do what you're supposed to do, there is no question, barring anything disability or anything like that, anything medical, barring anything like that. That's one of the few things where if you do what you're supposed to do, you are going to see results, no questions asked. And to me, that's life. If you do the steps, you are going to get the results. You may have some deviations here and there. You may have some hurdles and speed bumps. But if you do take the steps, it's going to happen. No questions asked. If you take the steps, it is going to happen. So I would tell my 20-year-old self, if you take the steps, it is going to happen. Point blank, period, case closed. Until the day God calls you home, if you take the steps to where you want to be, it will happen, period.
And you mentioned a word that is a part of my last question. When I am coaching executives or entrepreneurs and I'm talking about well-being, I try to stress the importance of working out, even if you're just walking or climbing the stairs, because it's an opportunity to find peace within yourself, relieve and reduce stress, but it also enhances your endurance when you're working long hours and still also wanting to balance your personal and professional lives and spend time with your kids and your spouse. How has working out, because I've seen you on social media, in the gym, getting buff. How has working out helped you personally and professionally?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything. I have to do it for so many reasons. Like you said, the mental clarity, just feeling good within your body, the way that you present. I'm a business owner and I have no doubt that people want to be associated with people who exude confidence. And to me, I'm my most confident self. I'm my most effective self when I feel good in my body, when I feel good about my body, when I feel good about how I present. Right? I may not be like a Denzel or a Will Smith, but I'm going to be the best I'm not going to put my best foot forward. I'm going to present the best packaging that I can. Also, I'm remaining healthy for my kids. I'm remaining healthy. I still beat my kids in the race. My 13 and 12 right now, and right now I still got them. It's getting close.
I don't know about that. I've seen your kids. I've seen your kids on your
I
videos.
still got them.
They look like they may be able to get you.
They're coming. They're coming. But even in my relation, I like looking good for my wife. I like being able to, I'm the protector. God forbid something happen, can I put up a little bit of fight, at least time for my kids to get under the bed? So, I mean, there's so many layers to maintaining your physical integrity on every single level of life spiritually. How can you be one with God if you're not taking care of the vessel that he gave you, what you're putting into it? I mean, there's so many layers to maintaining your physical. I think it really radiates to every single part of my life. So if I remove that, I'm gonna notice a nosedive in so many areas of my life, and I don't want to see that happen. So yeah, remaining physically active is a non-negotiable. My wife knows I'm going to the gym every day. She knows that, and she encourages it. Not to say like it's something, but she encourages it because she sees it. I think she sees that I'm my best self when I'm in the gym, when I'm active. I've had a car accident, so if I'm not active for too long period of time, I start to feel it in my neck. So I mean, there's so many different layers to physical. That's like my foundation. If I lose every single dollar, you're gonna find me in the gym, and I'll build it back up. Trust me.
Well, you have a wonderful family, wonderful wife, 4 wonderful kids. I enjoy seeing your posts on social media. How can someone find 2-6 Injury Law and also find you on social media, because you give so much compelling content out?
Oh, thank you. Well, my Instagram and TikTok handle is 2-6 Lawyer. The number is 2-6 in Lawyer. Phone number for the firm is 888-432-6529. Give us a call. We have a great intake process, 24/7, 365. We really leverage technology, so you can always get a hold of the firm if it's anything to do with the legal need. We specialize in personal injury, but I have folks in every corner of the country who practice every type of law. So if you have a question, feel free to reach out to me. I take great pleasure in giving referrals and saying and putting people in contact with the right attorney, because if I don't do it, I ain't touching it. I'm gonna tell you that now. I ain't messing your case up, but I'll tell you where to go and how to get it taken care of. But yeah, 2-6 Lawyer, pretty much all my handles. I try to keep that pretty consistent. So I would definitely love to lock in with anyone. And as you and I, and this is a living testament to that, I take great pride in the relationships that have been nurtured over social media. I mean, sometimes I have more of a connection with those folks than people I've known for quite some time, just because we're kind of exuding the same energy on either professional level or personal level, or oftentimes a mixture of all those things, right? So I learned so much from your page, seeing you speak, your podcast, just the way that you present. And I really love that about, I know social media gets a lot of negative, but there's so much good to be extracted from social media. So many good people out there, so much stuff to learn from. Like, I feel like I know you, and I feel like, and although we haven't met, this doesn't feel like in person, it doesn't feel like an uncomfortable conversation because I know you, right? So feel free to reach out to me. I would love to connect with anyone. 2-6 Lawyer. I would love to expose you to my content, and I look forward to taking in content of your listeners as well.
And for my audience, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, hit like, subscribe. But if you need an attorney in Florida or the Carolinas, Desmond is the person to go to. Again, we've been developing our relationship for about 2 years now, and we talked up front when we first connected about developing a relationship. So we weren't just connecting to peruse each other's page and laugh a little bit. We wanted to develop a relationship, and here we are 2 years later on this podcast episode. He's dropped so many gems, not only as it relates to how he can help you, how his firm can help you, but I think he displayed why leadership is so important, regardless of what your chosen endeavor is, and how you built your team and how you value your team. And when I say team, I'm talking about your team in the office, your employees, team members, but also your team at home, your beautiful wife, your beautiful daughter, and your 3 wonderful sons, who I know are already faster than you, even though you won't admit it.
One day, I'm going to the gym after this. You give me some extra motivation.
Desmond, thank you so much for joining my podcast episode and just giving so much insight into an area that everyone is not well versed in, because there's so many moving parts that we're not aware of that can help us make better sound decisions when we're in a situation when we need an attorney like you. But just even the information you provided for someone who may be aspiring to be an attorney as well. So I appreciate you sharing your time with me, my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you again so much for having me, and thank you for all the good things that you're putting out in the universe.